China's State Council recently released a guideline on expanding the country's advancements in AI. Originally launched in 2024, the Artificial Intelligence Plus initiative will promote integration in key sectors such as science and technology, industrial development, consumption upgrades, governance, and global cooperation.
人工智能技术驱动精准施策。
AI is helping governments work faster and smarter. With the help of the City Brain, a system that uses big data and cloud technology, projects that once took 9 days to get approved can now be cleared in just 9.5 hours. This makes government services quicker, more efficient, and easier for people to access.
How will these advances support China's goal of building an intelligent economy and society by 2035? To discuss this and more, let's bring in our guests. Joining us here in Washington, D.C., Dan Yi is the CEO of CollegeNode. From Shenzhen, Shaoshan Liu is the director of Embodied AI at the Shenzhen Institute of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics for Society. Amr Awadallah joins us from San Francisco. He is the founder and CEO of VECTARA, a generative AI company. And from Beijing, we're joined by Andy Mok. He is a senior research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Andy Mok, China is now home to more than 5,100 AI companies. That's about 15% of the world's total, and it accounts, that is, China accounts for more than 60% of global patents on AI. What can you tell us about this AI ecosystem that's developing in China and the impact it's going to have on technology progress in the country?
Sure, Anand. Well, I think these statistics are very, very impressive. And this is largely due to, I think, the very strong base that China has in STEM education. But let me share a couple other numbers with you as well that I think really drive home this point that some of the advantages I think China has in creating a truly AI-driven economy and society. Everything around AI really has to be done in software, whether we're looking at digital assistants or large language models and embodied AI like robots. So according to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, China has 9.4 million software developers. The U.S. has, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 1.5 million. And this really matters because AI also turns a lot of programmers into super programmers because it allows them to be far, far more productive, whether they're building purely AI applications or adding AI capabilities to existing software infrastructure. So I think this is another perspective that is not yet widely appreciated as to why I think China brings, I think, some really unique strengths to the creation of an AI-powered world.
And Andy, that figure you mentioned of 9.4 million software developers in China, is there any other country in the world that comes close to it?
Well, you know, I don't believe so, Anand. Now, clearly, in terms of artificial intelligence, I think China and the United States are considered the two leading countries here. So I think from that perspective, it really is a two-horse race, if I can use that expression.
Right. Dan, good to have you with us. As stated earlier, the State Council recently unveiled a set of guidelines. This is known as AI Plus Initiative. First, what is the initiative? And second, what are these guidelines and how are they going to be implemented?
Well, you know, a lot of this comes down to the AI race, right? As the previous panelist said, it's really a two-horse race. It's either China or the United States. I don't think I can name one or two prominent AI companies in Europe because I don't think they really matter as much. So the initiative really comes down to stimulating investment in AI, stimulating education in AI, with the goal of creating an ecosystem centered in China. So in 10 years, the entire world is going to be using chatbot. The entire world is going to be using robots. The question will be whether they will be using American robot or they will be using Chinese robot. And this initiative comes down to accelerating the effort to grow an indigenous industry in which will boost export and actively compete against the United States.
Dan, I guess it's one thing for these technologies to be developed, for the software to be developed, but what about how the consumer is educated on how to use this, how to get the best benefits out of it?
So, China's really taking an approach, a pro-AI approach, as I can say, in the field of education, in the field of manufacturing. In the field of education, for example, kids as early as 7 now start to actively learn how to use AI to achieve their objectives. This is something that I think every single country in the world should be doing. But, as far as the United States, we're not doing that, right? Like, we need to actually embrace AI in order to harness its maximum potential. So the initiative not only creates a manufacturing base, but it's actively creating a consumer base, a very active consumer base, which presumably will use AI to leverage its productivity for the next decades.
Shaoshan Liu, great to have you with us. Welcome to the show. China's newest regulations on labeling AI-generated content went into effect on September 1st. This is what Zhang Ju, the executive director of the Renmin Law and Technology Institute at Renmin University in China, said. Let's listen.
The rules have 3 levels of review. If a platform finds clear signs in the data showing that something was made by AI, it must label it as AI generated. If the platform can only guess through algorithms, it should be marked as suspected AI. These rules give platforms basic guidelines on how to check and label content.
With these regulations, is China safeguarding this content and should this be the baseline globally?
Definitely should. I think we have learned a lot from the previous generation of tech, internet. In the internet era, because the tech developed so fast and the regulation could not catch up, we had networks such as Napster that share music freely over the internet. They really hurt the music industry for a few years until people come up with a better set of regulation. In the AI era, I think China's better prepared, so we will not let that happen again, so that the regulation framework is catching up with the AI development framework. So I think it's a good effort, and it could be the global standard for the years to come.
Is there any structure or body established now to standardize this?
Well, I think in Shanghai, we just established a RECO, hoping that would become an international standard. Some of the China standards are really advanced compared to international standard right now, just as the one you mentioned, how to regulate copyright issues in generative AI contents. Because now China have the leading tech. Now the tech could become the global standard as compared before. The US standard has always been the global standard, but now it's a different game.
Amr Awadallah, good to see you. It's been some time. China is also taking a different approach to AI by focusing on its practical usage through what's known as application-oriented systems. The central government has provided something like $8.4 billion in AI investment funding to support startups. AI training power is heavily subsidized. Do you think this strategy is the right move?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, with any new technological wave, there is benefit to building the technology. Like we see NVIDIA right now is getting the benefit of building the technology that helps with AI. But the bigger benefit comes from how you apply that technology to improve outcomes. So, for example, the internet is huge, but then if you look at who were the beneficiaries of it, you would get Google and Facebook, who are companies very smart about leveraging in the right way. Or in China, of course, you have Baidu, Tencent, and ByteDance, and a number of others. So same thing, like the value of AI going forward, in my opinion, the race will also not be a function of who has the better algorithm, because we can get the algorithms from each other, but rather who is using it to maximize business benefits. That's really what's going to define the future.
And, as I said, the central government is providing just almost $8.5 billion to startups. How does that model differ from the one in the United States?
If you have a nascent startup ecosystem that's still building out, and you have a new investment area like AI that is risky by definition, meaning some will fail, some will succeed. Traditional investors who are not VCs, not venture capitalists, they tend to be very risk averse. They think more like investment banking people, like I want to put in the money in a building and I'm going to recover my money over a few years in that way. With AI, we're not sure which is going to work and which is not going to work. So having that infusion from the government to bootstrap the whole ecosystem to move way quicker when it comes to AI requires moves like this.
Andy Mark, the United States is trying to control China's AI development by placing restrictions on chips, especially on high bandwidth memory chips and semiconductors. But this has backfired in a way, hasn't it? Because it's really invigorated China's chip industry.
Well, I think it has backfired on in two ways. So first of all, American technology leadership, particularly in semiconductors, which of course are the crucial piece of hardware for AI development, depends on maximizing sales because they spend such a large percentage of revenue on research and development. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA in particular, has really been beating the drum on this, that they really should be selling to China, one, again, to fund the next generation of R&D, but also to prevent the rise of Chinese competitors. So you have this on the one side. And clearly, this has not worked from that perspective. NVIDIA at one point had, I believe, more than 90% market share in China, and now it's dropped significantly. The other is that it has forced Chinese enterprises to become quite innovative. So we look at, for example, Huawei's Cloud Matrix 384, which while it uses less powerful chips, when you put them together, because of course a particular chip can't really do a lot, you have to put them into a rack. A rack has to go into a data center. And what they've done is through very clever engineering, using technologies like optical connections to link 384 NVIDIA Ascend chips. And this unit itself outperforms the comparable NVIDIA one. So I think, yes, absolutely, this has backfired. And I think even in American policy and government circles, I think there is this acknowledgement that it has, which is, I think, one reason why we see the Trump administration saying that they're going to levy a 15% essentially tax on chip sales to China rather than just ban them outright.
Dan, China is also focusing on the development of humanoid robots. This is Liu Yufei, the technical director for the National and Local Co-built Humanoid Robotics Innovation Center. Let's listen.
Starting the beginning of this year, humanoid robots have been gradually empowered with more brains to enable them to have their own wisdom and to allow them to become increasingly human-like. Based on market trends, we expect China's humanoid robot sales to exceed 10,000 units in 2025, a year-on-year increase of 125%.
So, Dan, how significant is it, this growth that we just heard about? I mean, these are robots with more brains, as he points out.
Well, this is actually a huge, huge thing. Humanoid robot, I would say, is almost as big of a deal as AI itself, because by having humanoid robots, you open an entire field, blue ocean of application, which are otherwise closed, right? So there's a lot of seniors in China, in the United States, and we're running out of people to take care of them. So by having humanoid robot with high intelligence, we can have robot caretakers. We can have chefs. We can even have, humanoid robot aiding police officers on the street. And right now, on AI, I think United States is still slightly ahead. But on the humanoid robot development, I think China is firmly like one huge step ahead of the United States. And if I were to guess, in the next 5 years, you will start seeing humanoid robot walking all over the world, and they will likely be produced in China.
And Dan, would it be fair to say then, these humanoid robots are going to affect our day-to-day lives? As you point out, they could be chefs, they could be helping police, they could be doing other things in our homes. They're not just going to be restricted to big industrial plants, are they?
Of course not. I mean, don't you want a humanoid robot cooking and cleaning for you? I mean,
Yeah.
I did the dishes last night. It's a lot of work. I could have used that time to do much more productive things. And so my guess is once you have a humanoid robot that's proven and tested, they're going to sell like hotcakes. And I think if I were to make a bet right now, I think China is going to win that war on the humanoid robot as of today.
Yeah, I've got my order in already, Dan. Shaoshan Liu, Beijing has also just opened the world's first robot shopping mall. It's known as 4S. What is 4S and what can we expect?
Well, from sales to services, you have the whole customer service to provide to you on the robot side. Like we had the 4 stores for cars, now it's for robots. So I think the whole industry is prepared to sell robots to the general public, whether it's humanoid robots or different forms of robotic dogs and so on and so forth. That shows a sign that this industry is actually penetrating into our daily lives.
Amr Awadallah, the inaugural World Humanoid Robots Games also took place in Beijing. This is also, of course, known as the Robot Olympics. I mean, this is the fun side of it, but how significant is it in terms of AI development?
I mean, it is obviously because as you compete in these different games, and one of the games was actually playing football against each other. These games are very complex. They require a lot of coordination, lots of reasoning and math and thinking. So it's not just about the robot itself standing in the right way and moving in the right way. It's about it planning its course correctly with a team of robots that's working with. So absolutely, this is very, very significant. And yes, this initial first one, it looked embarrassing in some cases, but this just is the first one. And if we look at ChatGPT or AI 2 years ago, it was embarrassing. And look where it is today. So and definitely pushing ourselves to compete in these new ways is a very, very significant matter.
Right. Amr Awadallah, we were talking a few months ago about these developments in AI, and I remember you telling me that, not only will these robots and AI affect our day-to-day lives, but it will also affect, the creative industries, things like the movie industry, or even, we see AI being used right now in photography and editing photographs, editing video as well.
Yeah, I mean, the argument I was trying to make back then is these two waves of robotics and AI, they depend on each other, right? The robots need the AI to be able to move, and the AI needs the robots to have a way to impact the physical world. So they're related to each other. But the main point I was making back then is these new capabilities, whether that be the robots or the AI doing things like us creatively, like movies or otherwise, they will imbue us, all of us, with superpowers, right? And it's on us now, the entrepreneurs, the business leaders, to leverage these new technologies available to us to achieve that next level of GDP and the next level of productivity. That's the point I was trying to make. And it democratizes it. So it opens it up to anybody. I think the Unit-3 robots, they are as cheap as $10,000. Like that's very, very available to any consumer to launch their new business with it.
Andy Mark, the AI Plus initiative that we were talking about, it has goals set for 2027, 2030, and 2035. This is China's three-step roadmap. Is it on track?
Well, Anand, I think that certainly all the major indicators are pointing in the right direction. So I mentioned initially China's enormous software developer population. I think that's going to be vital for driving advances, especially diffusion of AI applications. When it comes to embodied AI, there's two huge challenges that still remain to be overcome. The first is an R&D problem. So I think it's widely acknowledged that there needs to be a new kind of AI model, some call it a world model, versus, say, a text-based large language model. But the second, and we talked about this with the robot games, this is a very smart move by China because it generates tremendous amounts of data that can be used to train, refine these new models. And I think this is really one of the purposes for this. And then second, some estimates say that we will have billions of robots. So if we do have one for every person, we would have billions of robots. And cost is the main limiting factor. And here I think the EV industry in China is a great example, again, where we see companies like BYD able to produce a sub 10,000 US dollar electric vehicle because of China's manufacturing scale, efficiency, et cetera. So I think, again, it's early days, but I think all the important indicators are pointing in the right direction.
And Andy, as you say, it's early days, but when we see this kind of very rapid development in technology and how this technology is going to be applied and used, is there any kind of regulatory mechanism that is already in place to govern how this is used?
I think there are, Anand, as we heard about with AI-generated content, but I think more generally. For example, Geoffrey Hinton, who's widely regarded as the godfather of AI, is fairly pessimistic about the future of AI because he believes that left to the devices of the market, it's only going to exacerbate income inequality and concentrate power in large corporations. But he, and I think many others, are optimistic about the future of AI when it's led, influenced by China, that it'll be more equitable. We only need to look at things like the open source of AI models like DeepSeek, like others, that I think has really forced even OpenAI to release some of its models as open source, because of course this makes it much more accessible to businesses, governments, individuals all around the world. So I think that in this sense, we can see, and even many traditional critics of China see China as a force for good when it comes to advancing AI holistically. It's not just pushing the technology envelope, diffusion, but also the regulation of it, as you asked in your question, to ensure that it is more equitable and able to be regulated when it comes to misuses.
Dan, what are your thoughts on that, on making sure that this technology is regulated, that it is accessible to everyone, that we don't have it just accessible to the rich, that there's some kind of equality here?
Well, so that's a two-part question. Number one, I don't really think it can be regulated just because it's developing so quickly. I think the regulation will really have a hard time catching up. AI, the landscape in 2 years will be drastically different than the landscape today. And for someone like me, it's even kind of hard to imagine the issues that will come up in 2 years. The second part of the question of making accessibility, I think modern capitalism will basically just take care of that. Because as AI develop, the cost will drop drastically. And I think today, as you can see with OpenAI, it's already accessible to everybody around the world. Whereas for these robots in the future, competition will drive the price down. You're looking at $10,000 robots right now, but my guess is in about 10 years, they will be practically free, right? You will be able to use them, and they will be supported by either ads or sponsorship. So I think these technology will be able to reach everybody very, very quickly.
Shaoshan Liu, the Chinese AI system DeepSeek, it's one I'm familiar with, I use it pretty often. It's developing an advanced AI agent, a feature rather, that can basically work autonomously with the user, as well as it can learn and it can grow as well. I mean, how does this work?
Well, AI is a basic utility. I want to correct the previous speaker. He said OpenAI is accessible all over the world, but not in China. But DeepSeek is accessible all over the world. That's the basic utility that we are accessing. But on top of the basic utility, you develop applications. Just like back then in the mobile phone days, you have Android, but on top of Android, you develop applications. So I think DeepSeek's already a step ahead at doing all these different kind of applications to help you to deliver your tasks more efficiently, more practically.
Amr Awadallah, there have been predictions that there will be what's termed an AI superintelligence, and that could be very soon, by 2027. What does that look like?
We are still on that trajectory. Like I see all the improvements that are happening and the rate at which these large language models are becoming smarter and smarter every year. Again, ChatGPT, which was this kind of inflection point that we all saw, this only happened 2.5 years ago. Like it feels like decades ago, but it was only 2.5 years ago. So the rate of progress continues to be at a very, very high curve. And yeah, Nirvana is this concept of AGI, which I would say it's AI that is better than us at everything. Like there is no domain that it cannot beat the best human at. 2027 might be too soon, like it may be 2030, but it's going to be happening. Like it's clearly, if we extend the trajectory of how these models are improving right now, we're going to reach that point that one, we have an AI that's better than us in every field, better than the best of us, actually, not even the average of us in every field. And number two, AI that is able to improve itself. And this is really the main thing, is like once the AI can change its own code and improve itself, the AI doesn't sleep. So now it just will keep getting better even faster than it is getting better today.
Right. Dan, one final point. You know, you were talking earlier on about education. I mean, we are seeing a push for AI, not just in industrial sectors, but also in education. I want you to listen to Liu Xin, head of an artificial intelligence course product at an education technology company. Let's watch this.
Under the guidance of the Beijing Municipal Education Commission, we have collaborated with the Digital Education Center to develop 80 lessons, which are now available on the Smart Education platform for primary and secondary schools in Beijing. About 150,000 students from over 1,000 schools across 25 provinces and cities nationwide are currently using them.
So Dan, how do you see this being implemented over the next 10 years?
Well, you know, AI will really unleash a huge wave of efficiency in education, right? So it doesn't really make sense for, 500 teachers in Beijing to give the same math lecture, over and over. It makes a lot more sense for AI to teach it because AI have the individual data of each individual student and can teach the course to the speed the student need. So I think we're not going to replace teachers, obviously, but I think AI will supplement teachers. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot better learning outcome for students with the advent of AI in the next 5 or even 2 to 3 years.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Thank you to all of you for being with us. That is it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington.